strength, intelligence, and speed. We're going to take this genetic test and find out if we have superhero DNA. Alright, so as we've covered, there are a lot of these DNA test kits, and this is one that I ordered off Amazon. And this is actually a superhero DNA test kit. And what that means is the superhero assessment, it says, decodes secret information in your unique DNA, giving you unprecedented insights into your superpowers that lie. After that, it's up to you to decide how to use them. Very exciting. Your report will include the analysis of these superhero attributes: strength, intelligence, and speed. It includes a cheek swab, a registration card, a prepaid envelope, and instructions. Now, these are made by a company called Origin, and we're going to unpack this one. So, fairly standard packaging. This is exactly how it came. Is inside a Amazon box, and if you can see here, nothing too oddball or similar about this package. And I bet that it's going to contain something rather similar to our others. So let's unpack this real quick. Nice packaging. Alright, so let's go ahead and give you that there. Alright, so there's your box. On the back it has a website you can go to probably learn some more. Alright, so here we have some instructions. Actually, this is a quote. The best way to predict your future is to create it, by Abraham Lincoln. Very inspiring. Alright, so inside the box we have DNA collection instructions and a cheek swab. So take a look at that. And again, this is one we got off Amazon. So we're going to open up the package here. What is underneath exactly? Alright, so we have a registration card. Please keep this for your records. This will have your personal barcode and your personal registration card. So if you see that, we've got the ability to track our cheek swab, and we've got another plastic baggie. We're seeing some common themes here. And we also have a self-addressed envelope to mail the cheek swab back. And that completes the dissection of this particular test. So, Origin, superhero. Can't wait to see if I'm going to be able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. We're going to find out exactly if we were loggers from Canada, or maybe we were in the French militia. I don't know. Maybe we could be Vikings. Who knows? But we're going to take this Ancestry DNA test and find out. So let's look inside the box, shall we? This is one that I picked up on Amazon. This is one that I picked up on 23andMe's website. This is another one I picked up on Ancestry. And this is one that is physician ordered. Now, we'll talk about each one of these in depth, but let's go ahead and look inside the box. So, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's look at Ancestry first. So, typical packaging, nothing really all that special. As you can see, what you see is what you get. You get an Ancestry box. It's probably got a saliva kit inside of it. So, we'll open up the box. standard shipping labels. We'll see if there's a return address in here. All right, so Ancestry.com, DNA LLC from Utah. Box needs to be opened, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, so as we open the box, this is the first time I've opened it, right here in front of you. It comes with a card, little postcard. It says Ancestry DNA, welcome to your ancestry. Step number 1, activate the kit online. Step number 2, gather your DNA. This will be the instruction manual for the saliva kit. Inside this is the collection specimen bag. So this will be for our saliva kit. And it has some instructions on here. Don't forget to activate your test online. As we look inside the box, we see that this has activation instructions. It also has activation, or giving your saliva sample how to use the saliva sample tube and how to gather your DNA. So pretty thorough instructions. It's got a little code on the back. And as we dig deeper into the box, this is what you're seeing inside of the Ancestry box. Okay, so in here we have our saliva kit. See that? All right, so this is our sample saliva kit where we put that in. And inside the box we also have a self-addressed United States Postal Service tracking number box to send our specimen back. So here we are. This will go back to Sandy, Utah. And again, here in the box it says don't forget to activate. So we will dig deeper once we receive our reports back on Ancestry. We'll activate the reports online as well. And I know many of you have already done these Ancestry DNA kits. So it will be interesting to see whether or not who we're related to across the world. But what I noticed about Ancestry in these ancestral kits, and there are a lot of companies that do this, is that there's not a lot of healthcare application. This is very interesting for, for lineage purposes, for historical record purposes. My grandmother, for example, up in Canada was very interested in our lineage and our history, and I wished before she had passed away that these types of kits were available, because she would have loved this. But as far as healthcare utility, taking this back to my doctor, I've already talked to him about it. There's not much that is going to be learned from this. My grandmother, for instance, had a few pieces of paper that were all written in French, and they were on this, old-timey paper. And so this would have been really interesting for her. And, I can definitely see the benefits of the ancestral tests, but not for healthcare utility or healthcare application. So let's go ahead and dig into the next one. So what we get inside of this is again a physician-ordered whole genome sequencing test. And when you open up the package, it's sent FedEx. When you open up the package, we've of course got the box that it comes in, a lot more clinical than we're used to seeing in the others that we looked at. And then we've got our standard shipping label to send the saliva sample back. So let's look inside the box, shall we? Inside the box we have our saliva kit, and it's fairly simple. This is something that you would expect to receive if you were giving any type of samples. So here we've got our saliva kit. Take a look at that. And there's instructions in the box, of course. So we've got that. And then inside of this we've got two different cards here with instructions, it looks like. This is a whole genome sequencing test from Evidenza Precision Medicine. And you can, looks like it's beconnectedtoyourhealth.com. We've got instructions on here for what happens next. And then interesting, the most interesting thing about these is the application and utility healthcare wise that is after you have your whole genome tested. And what happens and why this is important right here and why this test is important and why it is so robust is that after you receive the 150 gigabyte report and your patient summary and your physician has received his report, is you then have the ability to go to the largest healthcare application analysis online, which is sequencing.com. And why that is important is because let's say you want to look at what your DNA says about caffeine intake or diabetes or stress. You can download the app and then it drops your DNA test file because they have it on record. And again, what's different about this test and the data that is received from it is that you own the data. The patient owns the data. Whereas with the other ones, when you are signing up to purchase your DNA, you are essentially releasing your data utility rights, and you are giving them access to the data that they are collecting through your saliva sample. Whereas with this one, the patient owns the data, which is, as we have seen in the marketplace and in the news lately, that is a hot button issue. So this is by far a more robust and much more healthcare application. Has a lot more healthcare application than any of the tests that we've ever seen or we've analyzed. Now this one is not inexpensive by any means, but it's not exorbitant where we're looking at, only celebrities can afford it. This particular one usually runs about $2,500. I think that they have it right now for $1,999, so $1,999. But again, you own the data. The patient owns the data. The patient gets a VCF file, and it's 150 gigs, and there will be lifetime application of that, research and analysis ongoing that sends you back regular reports on it. So, you've heard me talk a little bit about the other ones and what you get, but you get a lot more when you have something that has actual healthcare application and utility. The other thing I like about that is the smartphone application and iPad application and Android applications that you can then download to help you analyze and unpack and dig into and do deep dives into your own DNA. So this is the third one that we're unpacking today, and let's move on to the next one. Genetic test that we're looking at is something that a lot of people are very familiar with, which is the 23andMe genetic test. Now, 23andMe has two types of analysis that they can do. One is just the ancestry, and one is the health and ancestry. Now, it is not nearly as thorough as the whole genome test. Think of it as, there's I'm trying to think of the words. So they have two types of tests, and they have an ancestry test, just like Ancestry.com, so they're, again, possibly competing products. And then we have an analysis that in the 23andMe bundle, their saliva and reporting and analysis includes health and ancestry. Now, don't be persuaded to think that the limited amount of health analysis that these companies do is going to equate to a whole genome type of a test. They simply do not. That's like comparing, a lawnmower engine to, a supercar. It's just not going to. They're not going to match up. You can't put those things in the same categories. The healthcare utility actually is limited in this one, but there is some healthcare utility, there is some analysis and reporting, but it's not. It only looks at certain things. It only looks at certain topics related to your saliva and your DNA. So as we look at the box, we see that we've ordered the more robust package. It's actually not that quite robust, but again, we've already talked about that. It's much more limited in the analysis, but it is the health and the ancestry. So you can see that a lot of time and energy has been put into a lot of these DNA kits and the marketing of them. That's important because this is not a physician order test, neither is the ancestry test, or neither is the superhero DNA test that we've looked at. Only one of these is a very robust test. But you know, a lot of energy goes into the marketing of these types of tests. So we have here, this is exactly how it came in the mail. United States Postal Service, first class, and you know, pretty simple stuff. You know, with register your kit at 23andme/start. So let's take a look at inside the box and see what we've got in here and how it compares to some of the others. I would expect it's going to look very similar, if not almost identical. So on the back of the box here, we've got learn what your DNA says about you. Discover, we analyze your sample, we will send you an email to let you know your reports are ready in your online account. Again, do they own the data? That's an important critical piece. Now actually, it's when we look at the growth and recent growth of these DNA test kits, we see that just last year a report came out in a business publication talking about these types of tests, and I think Ancestry had analyzed 5 million saliva samples, and 23andMe at the time had done 2 million saliva samples. So again, these are things that consumers can buy directly from these companies, and they're not physician ordered. They don't have a lot of healthcare utility and application as something that you would get from a doctor's office. So you should be asking your doctors, you know, about these types of tests. So let's look at this again. So that's interesting. We've got a box as we take off the label here, or the sleeve, is that this is your first class return service postal box that you're going to mail your saliva sample back in. And when we go further into the box here, we see that again, a lot of, I mean, to order these types of boxes, it's not cheap. A lot of good marketing goes into this. Again, we have a postcard here. Then you're going to write down your 14-digit barcode. I presume this is going to have some instructions in here. Yep. We're excited to begin this journey for you. And so I also want to talk about, this is a good time to talk about, you know, once we've ordered the tests, what type of emails and what type of communication are these companies having with you? Are they trying to upsell you something else? You know, that's something to consider when you're purchasing these types of tests. So as we look into these kits, we see that there's our saliva sample. So it looks very similar to what we've been unpacking before. And again, they really want you to register and put your information in here so that you can track what your analysis of the sample looks like. So you take a look at the back, the actual saliva sample, and you see that that is very similar to what we've seen in other packages. And they've got some instructions on here as well. See that? So in conclusion, we have a lot of information that we're going to be receiving back, and each of these different companies have relatively different time frames, and it is important to, you know, talk with your physician about these. This is something that we need to move past lineage and ancestry stuff. We need to move really into much more healthcare utility and application. I'm going to talk about that in our next video blog, and we'll go into why these are so common, why these feel like, you know, these are either novelty things, or why these are, you know, powerful things that are going to keep us, engaged with our bodies and engaged with our health and engaged with hopefully engaged with the doctor to help us navigate these analyses. Each of these DNA tests, we see that one of these is actually not like the other. When we look at these, we see that there are saliva specimen kits. So of the 4, we have 3 of them that are saliva collection kits, and they all look very, very similar. See that? Now of these, we see that one of them is actually only a whole genome sequencing test. And the interesting thing about some of these saliva specimens is that once you send in your saliva collection, the fluid that is contained inside of there, if you can see that, some of them have a slight color. This one does not, neither does this one. This one actually does have a slight coloration to it. These, depending upon which collection company or collection data kit is used, can last in refrigeration for up to a year. That's not the case with all of them, but it is certainly the case with some. Now this is a cheek swab, and for those watching, you can collect DNA through a cheek swab, and there's the bag that it will go back and be sent into.